Welcome to Luscious Living, the podcast where personal growth meets wellness. Here, we talk about growth that feels nourishing, wellness that feels realistic, and habits that help you evolve without burning out. I'm so glad you're here. Let's grow together. Hello. Welcome back to the Luscious Living podcast. And I have an exciting episode for you today. Exciting because this is a symptom. This is a dis-ease that more and more women especially are starting to experience. And there's not a lot of concrete answers and action steps and really the acknowledgement of the condition and how you might be feeling. And so today, my goal is to really strip away the fluff of what we might hear online. If it sounds vague, I want to make this concrete, practical, and offer a light at the end of the tunnel, or at least along the tunnel, okay? So if you're feeling alone, please know that you are not alone. Please know that there are strategies that you're going to take away. I'm going to really go over what is POTS, going through the Western medicine view and symptoms, as well as the traditional Chinese medicine approach. I love to always combine both approaches and really look at anything the body goes through multiple lenses. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the strategy. I'm going to outline how to restore the mitochondrial function, inflammation, cell membrane. And I know those might sound like even overwhelming in itself, but again, I'm going to be breaking down some key foods to eat, looking at some key habits, and as I promised, is looking at 5 actions. And you might just take half of an action towards that today after listening and then save it, okay? And then take another one when you feel ready. So let's look at POTS, the Western medicine view. And also, if you have any questions after this episode, please reach out to me at hello@celinbilgin.com. I would love to help answer those questions. If you do want to work together on a really organized strategic plan together, I recommend that. But either way, my goal is always to add as much value to you as possible. All right, so POTS, Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome. So it's essentially disease of the autonomic nervous system. And the diagnostic criteria is a heart rate increases less than 30 beats per minute within 10 minutes of standing without a significant drop in blood pressure. And the symptoms last about 3 to 6 months and more. Okay. So some common symptoms are dizziness when standing, palpitations, brain fog, fatigue, cold extremities, GI issues, exercise intolerance, meaning that when you work out, it just takes you so much longer to recover, or you just feel way worse after exercising, or don't even have the energy to exercise. Anxiety-like surges and blood pooling in legs. And it's associated typically with post-viral symptoms, especially a few years ago. We had a major viral infection that affected many people. Mast cell activation, autoimmune activity, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is kind of like a connective tissue fragility, chronic inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, and small fiber neuropathy. So essentially, we're looking at the membrane integrity of your cell. We're looking at mitochondrial stress. So imagine when we look at high school biology, we learned about the membrane, so the outside of the cell, mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell, and we also look at chronic inflammation. So that's really the lens that I'm looking at this. And I heard it be termed leaky cells. You know how we have leaky gut, which is, again, I will say, not always acknowledged in the Western medicine sphere, but it is something that if we look deeper, we understand what's happening mechanically, this makes sense. Now, if you look at Chinese medicine, and so whenever I see this, there is a combination of symptoms that would lead to how one might feel with POTS. And so with TCM, we look at the different organ systems and how they work together and if they're deficient or in excess condition. So first and foremost, spleen Qi deficiency, meaning that with this, it's your digestive system is going to be off. You'll be chronically bloated. You might have chronic loose stools, poor nutrient stimulation. So you might have low iron, not because you're not eating enough iron, because you're not assimilating it. Blood pooling, or even you have blood spotting or a period that won't stop. Easily bruising, fatigue, brain fog. So the tissues are being undernourished. Then we have heart qi or heart yang deficiency. So that will manifest as palpitation, shortness of breath, anxiety, poor circulation. Then we have liver qi stagnation, turning to heat. So stress triggered flares, emotional surges, anger, inflammation, head pressure. Then we also might have things like yin deficiency, which is dryness, overheating, wired but tired, as well as blood deficiency. So dizziness, pale complexion, pale lips as well. And maybe this is something that you have always felt. So this could be from childhood as well. And then it just got worse over time. And so if we look at a realistic, not romanticized way that we can actually improve symptoms, it's rarely fixed by one intervention. You might need medication and something like acupuncture. You will definitely need to work on gut health, and might be another type of body work. It's going to be a series of approaches, and we're going to go through them. And it requires layered rebuilding and it will improve when inflammation, stress load, and mitochondrial stress are reduced. So a typical trajectory with proper support, we can look at 2 to 4 weeks of stabilizing symptoms, 3 to 4 months is improved orthostatic tolerance, and then 6 to 12 months structural resilience improves. And really, I do want you to look at this long term, really in terms of the 6 to 12 months more so, and even sometimes longer. But ideally, again, we're always working on something, all of us. And so we're going to take a discipline strategy approach, okay? And so starting with the first layer is stopping what's breaking the cellular barrier, which is non-negotiable, because if this stays, then nothing else is going to work. So food-wise, we're going to cut or strictly reduce ultra-processed oils. And I know the health world has gone in a whole flurry with, PUFAs, and coming from someone myself who I used to be so stressed out about every single oil and every single metal and every single fragrance, that stressed me out more. So if this is going to stress you out too much, then I want you to just take a step back and do your best, do one thing at a time. And so the big thing is I would recommend eliminating as much as possible oils like canola, because we heat it, and it has been clinically shown that we should not be heating these types of oils. But of course, what else are we doing with canola oil typically? Things like peanut oil as well, in some cases, deep fried oils that are used to deep fried foods in fast food restaurants, and just fried food in general. And so I would go for things like coconut oil, butter if you tolerate it, olive oil, avocado oil, but not heated as well, flaxseed oil, not heated. Then I would, if you drink at all, I would cut out alcohol completely right now, okay? As well as chronic caloric restriction or over fasting. I would not be fasting at all. And we're going to talk about one of the action steps later on, but I would not recommend fasting in this case right now. Sleep debt as well. So you might be staying up late to finish a project. You might be staying up late watching a movie or on your phone, as many of us have done, including myself, right? And so then we get in something called sleep debt, which we cannot make back with the next night or the night or the weekend after, okay? High intensity training without recovery. In this case, I would not recommend high intensity training until your symptoms are fairly gone. And to be honest, all of us have a trigger point where if we push the boundary, then we end up experiencing our symptom. And especially in this case, I would not work on high intensity. I would have gentle, really, really gentle workouts, such as Pilates, such as walking outside, such as yoga. I would not be focusing on high intensity right now. Excessive caffeine on an empty stomach and chronic emotional stress. This is absolutely huge. Whether it is navigating stress through having more fun, this could be dance classes, it could be funny movies, this could be crocheting, knitting, some kind of hobby, as well as community. This community could look like one person. It could look like community within a community such as a church or a faith. It could be community with a higher power. It could be community with family. It does not matter. I want you to be getting the right support. This is so, so key because we often focus on nutrition and supplements and exercises, but I cannot overstate the importance of community. And I've also gone through periods where you're just kind of figuring out who should be in the community and who should not. But again, this could be a therapist as well. This could be someone that you go see once a week for acupuncture that just listens and is gentle with you. Okay. And so that's going to be key. Then we're looking at rebuilding the cell membrane. This is the core. So a cell membrane, if we look at it, it's comprised of fat, protein, and minerals. And so then we are going to address the structure. So I talked about fat, so that's lipids. We are going to prioritize phospholipid-rich fats, not random omega-3s alone. So the first one is phosphatidylcholine, found in sunflower lecithin. This is what I always recommend, and it's really, really nice and inexpensive as well. Also really, really good for brain health. Then we look at pasture-raised egg yolks. If you tolerate it, I do recommend going to a farmer and making sure you know that it's pasture-raised as much as possible. Then foods like ghee, butter, olive oil, so stable fats only. And then DHA from foods like salmon. Okay, I would not be taking the DHA supplements. And so with this, we're restoring membrane fluidity and receptor function. Then we go into the amino acids. This helps to kind of seal up the junctions and repair any breaks. And this is the same thing as leaky gut, okay? And so we want to look at the building blocks of your lining. So this is glycine, found in collagen, found in bone broth, glutamine, okay? So this is found in beef, chicken, especially the skin, turkey, lamb, pork, cottage cheese, tofu, kidney beans, lentils, almonds, walnuts, sunflower seeds, red cabbage, raw spinach, parsley, and kale. Then we're looking at proline, again, another collagen-heavy amino acid. So bone broth, again, meat like chicken, especially the skin, beef, dairy, eggs, asparagus, cabbage, and cucumber. And cysteine needed for glutathione synthesis, which is really, really important for detoxification. Chicken, turkey, beef, lamb, dairy products such as yogurt and cheese, sunflower seeds, and legumes, okay? And the third part of this is restoring mitochondrial function. So again, if your mitochondria is not working properly, you're just going to be tired. You're not creating ATP. So the foundational three pieces of this is magnesium. This is not an option. And you can take a multi-spectrum magnesium, and it really just depends on your personal needs. I would start with the magnesium biglycinate on the skin, so through a lotion or even through a drink, and then layer from there. And then B vitamins, especially B1. And I would not take this through a supplement necessarily, because if you just take B1, then B vitamins are competitive. And this is why I am not a fan of biotin, is that it will crowd out the other B vitamins. And so you want to have them balanced. So I would really try to get that through a whole foods diet. A lot of the foods I just mentioned are rich in B vitamins. Basically, if you have a variety of grains, of legumes, of fruits, vegetables, meat, you will be covered. CoQ10, however, is one I do recommend supplementing, especially if you struggle with fatigue and lots of inflammation or some other hormonal challenges. Then we want to look at reducing inflammation. Now, this next piece is going to be important if you don't feel overheated. Curcumin found in turmeric is great. Again, I always prefer a food-based approach because that whole food is designed to be metabolized from the body versus we're just extracting the anti-inflammatory part of turmeric, which is curcumin. So, again, if you can have a good quality turmeric powder and add some freshly cracked black pepper, and you add it maybe to, you have a turmeric latte, you add it to a soup, that's going to be your best bet. Then we have omega-3s, especially if you struggle with symptoms of POTS and you have joint pain, brain fog. I would not get omega-3 6, 9. We already have too much of the 6 and the 9 in the Western diet. I would focus on the 3. And then polyphenols. This is essentially the anti-inflammatory compound in berries, green tea, olive oil, salmon, tomatoes, etc. Okay? And the big thing is, this is easy to say, but chronic use of non-steroidal steroidal anti-inflammatory medications such as Tylenol, Advil, any of those pain medications, those are going to directly impact our goals here. But again, it's tough when you do need them. So that is going to be dependent on your body and your needs. And I also would not take mega dose of antioxidants. Can actually slow regeneration. Most importantly, we want to repair the gut immune interface, because if your digestive system is not working, then everything else is also going to not work. And so some core moves are going to be regular meals. If you have breakfast at 10, try to keep it at 10. If you have lunch at 12:30, try to keep it at 12:30, etc. Warm cooked foods, okay? I really don't want you to be having lots of raw salads, raw fruits, iced matchas, iced coffees. Those are so going to make us go in the opposite direction right now. Some fermented foods if you tolerate it. And then removing foods that cause obvious bloating, rashes, fatigue, and a lot of people that is conventional dairy products, that is gluten products as well. Okay, and then some short-term support for that is zinc carnosine, L-glutamine, and then foods like aloe, slippery elm, but again, through a herbalist, through a naturopath, through someone like myself who can actually walk you through what is actually crucial there. And we want to really focus on circadian rhythm. Okay, so the barrier proteins follow the circadian rhythm. So sleeping before 11 p.m. ideally, morning light exposure, eating within a consistent window, and gentle evening routine that helps to lower cortisol. Okay. And so now if we look at all of that and actually take it into an action plan, take it into an everyday practical way to incorporate this, we want to first and foremost stabilize blood sugar and establish a nervous system rhythm. So again, eating 3 structured meals, having protein in every single meal. This could be 20 to 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. No aggressive fasting, morning light ideally within waking, and sleeping before 11 p.m. because the autonomic nervous system collapses under chaos. When we have stable glucose levels, we have stable cortisol levels, better vascular tone, and this alone can reduce tachycardia in many cases. All right, number 2, correct magnesium and B1 first, okay? So again, magnesium ideally biglycinate or even threonate, and then focusing on B1 foods, especially if fatigue and fast heart rate are a part of your main symptoms, because mitochondria cannot produce ATP without those 2 nutrients, okay? Then we want to increase your blood volume intelligently, not, just kind of throwing a bunch of these in your system. So adequate sodium intake. Okay, so that looks like having Celtic sea salt, for example, in your food. This is also things like beets and celery, which actually naturally contain sodium. If you like having seafood, I highly recommend that, and seaweed as a snack, for example. And we also want to add potassium from food as well. Again, we're not supplementing this through a supplement, we are going in together and we're using food. And I want you to make sure that you're hydrating early during the day. Now, electrolytes can be a good option if you struggle with drinking enough water. But I'm not a crazy big fan of depending on electrolytes, especially if you're not sweating. Electrolytes are designed, typically you're out in the summer heat, for example, and you're sweating a lot and you quickly need to replenish fluids. But especially I see it now more nowadays that people who are living in a colder climate, who don't necessarily sweat a lot or even have difficulty time sweating, they're not necessarily working out that involves them sweating or needing to replenish fluids, then actually they could be really stressing their kidneys. And so this is why it's so important to not listen to the trends on social media about, again, we have electrolytes for everything now. We have protein for everything now. We're going to have something else for something else tomorrow. Again, I'm saying this lightheartedly. I know that everyone is doing their best. And trust me, I have been the person that followed every single trend. This is why I do what I do, because I was so confused and I followed everything and just was even more overwhelmed. Okay, so this is definitely, I'm on your team. Okay. And so again, a little bit of that flavor from the electrolytes can be so great. Maybe use half of it during the day. Okay. And again, this is buying a stability while deeper repair happens. And then again, number 4, fourth action is rebuilding membranes through real food. So daily egg yolks, eggs in total, okay, collagen and bone broth, olive oil or ghee, quality protein. And as I mentioned, I would consider the phosphatidylcholine as well. And then we are rebuilding the structural walls. Then lastly, we're training the autonomic nervous system gradually. So eventually, strength training, maybe this is once or twice a week, slowly. This is not doing HIIT workouts, not doing those crazy sweaty workouts that you might see again on social media with Pilates or yoga, something gentle, something light. This could even be a little bit of calisthenics eventually, but I would not push yourself at this point because that's when we can see relapsing. But we do still want you to be moving your body, okay? And so if you do have a lot of the GI issues as well, I want to emphasize those warm cooked meals, removing any anti-inflammatory triggers. This is usually corn, sugar, conventional dairy or excessive dairy as well. Overeating raw foods as well, okay? And so adding in that collagen and glycine, glutamine short term, zinc carnosine as well. I trust that these actions seem like they are really, really nourishing, something practical. And even if you took one thing away, one action that you can try and just do that over the next month, that is a huge, huge win. I hope this has been helpful. And again, if you have any questions, please do reach out. I would be honored to be of service to you. If you want a part 2, let me know. And I would love to even make a compilation of questions that I receive from this episode, if it makes sense in that way for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you will share this episode with someone in your life that might have POTS or might think they have POTS, and so that we can have you and your loved ones feeling their best and really going out into the world to live their best life. Okay, so have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll see you for the next episode. Bye for now. If this conversation added value to your world, I'd love to receive a 5-star review from you. It really helps to reach the right ears. For deeper dives and curated resources, be sure to check out the links below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll meet you back here next time.